If you do not have health insurance, write it down and let me talk to you about it while you're writing that down. There is an insurance agency in North Little Rock called the Eaton Agency, and they will work with you to help you get registered for the Affordable Care Act insurance that has previously been called the Medicare supplement. Not Medicare, Medicaid supplement. For right now, that's what our government offers. That's what we have available. Things can change because, you know, we had a change in our political landscape, and our Congress is different, and so there may be some changes that occur, but for right now, that is still in place, and you still have access to that. So if you're here and don't have health insurance, I strongly encourage you to contact these individuals. Lori or Patrick are the two individuals that, if you identify yourself as a student with Baptist Health College Little Rock, they will help walk you through the process so that you can get the application filled out. I would be very surprised if you don't have health insurance that you do not qualify. I'm pretty sure that anybody in here would qualify because the criteria is very minimal. So call that number, 501-313-4054, ask for Lori or Patrick, identify yourself as a student at Baptist Health College, and say, I was told that you can help me make application for insurance. I'm a student and I don't have any health insurance. That is something that's just a good idea to get taken care of. There's a lot of things that can happen in the next year, 18 months, or 2 years. And it is best it's in your best interest to be prepared, instead of, oh, something bad happened, I had a car accident on the way to school, and now I'm in the hospital, and I don't have any health insurance. And I'm not making that up. That has happened. So if you're one of those that needs to get your bases covered, I strongly encourage you to call and contact the Eaton Agency. And then the last thing that I want to share with you is what's up on the screen now, and that is our student chapel service. So this is the second way that I try to promote spiritual care here on campus. And student chapel is a very short worship service that we do 3 times a semester. All your schedules are very full and busy and crazy at times. So we try to schedule these when the most people will be on campus. The first one this semester will be Thursday, January the 25th. So that's 3 weeks away. You'll be getting an email from this email address, studentchapel@bhclr.edu, and it will let you know when that service is going to be and remind you to come and be a part of it. We meet right across the hall in the chapel. So if you've not seen the chapel, it's right here on the corner. My office is right next to it. This is a service for students, led by students. Right now we have a team of about 4 students that take turns and rotate in the leadership of it. If you're interested in being a part of the student chapel leadership, please come and see me. If you sing and enjoy doing that, or enjoy leading people in song and in worship, if you play an instrument, piano, guitar, or anything like that, if you don't mind praying in public or reading scripture in public, or if you are comfortable sharing scriptural thoughts or a devotional idea, come and see me, because I would love to plug you in and have you be a part of our student chapel service. As you can see, my time is up, but I got one more thing I need to say here. So let me wrap up on the student chapel. We will do that. It's a 15-minute worship service that occurs at 9:45 every time that we do it. So January 25th, 9:45, if you're on campus, your faculty will give you an educational break, and you'll be allowed or given the opportunity to come and join us. So when that occurs, come on over, be a part of that service, experience a time of what we hope is spiritual fulfillment and replenishment in the midst of very busy and crazy, hectic times. So the last thing that I want to say before our security people come up and talk to you is just to give you an encouragement. What you have embarked upon today and begun, I hope gives you great joy and excitement. But it is stressful, and there are times that it can be very difficult. I talk to students a lot about the demands of it, especially if you have children, if you have a spouse, if you're trying to work. So I just want to encourage you to persevere, to stay strong, because it is worth it every step of the way. When you get to the end, it will all be worth it, and it will all pay off for you. It could actually change your life and maybe even change the life of your families. So I just want to encourage you to stay strong, to stay faithful, to persevere, and to know that God is guiding you and going to provide for you throughout this in ways that you may not even be able to understand. And I hope that that happens to you, that you'll see Him provide for you in that way. I'm here as a resource. I want to help you and walk with you and do what I can to make your experience here the best that it possibly can be. So please come by and see me, and if my door is open, that means come on in. If it's shut, I may have somebody in there, or I may be running around on campus somewhere. But I keep a schedule up on my door, and so I try to keep that marked to let you know if I'm in a meeting or if I'm teaching, because I have a class that I teach, and at some point I will be teaching each one of you in spiritual perspectives in healthcare. That's one of the courses that you're required to take. So my calendar will be updated every day, and you'll be able to see where I am. If you really need to see me, email me or call me and make an appointment. But if you want to just try to catch me and stop by, you're welcome to do that as well. I look forward to meeting each of you in class and seeing you around on campus and helping you out in your endeavors as you move through your programs of study. So God bless you today, and welcome to Baptist Health College, Little Rock. All right. Is Jamie Clark in here yet? Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Clark and Larry Clark? Yeah, no relation. Sergeant, is it sergeant or captain? Major. Major Larry Clark and Miss Jamie Clark.
I'm Minor Clark.
Good morning. Hey, Hope, is this yours? No. Okay, it belongs to you. Okay. Kind of coolish this year, right? Okay.
As Dr. Coleman said, I am Jamie Clark, and I'm the coordinator of campus and financial services. So one of the hats I wear is for campus security, and I work with Clayton Moore back there in the back. He's security on campus from I think 6 to 2:30, and then we have another jester that comes in. He's here till 11. At night, and that's when he is done with his shift. And then behind me is Major Larry Clark, as she said, and he rolls up in the Baptist Health system, but he helps kind of coordinate all of our campus security out here. So that's who we are. And you want to begin with or do you want to talk first?
Yeah, we talk.
Okay.
How are y'all? I'm here to talk about active shooter a little bit. That's the biggest threat in our industry right now that we're worried about. We're just going to go over some statistics, and then we're going to show you all this cheesy video. It's outdated, but we'll get there one of these days. Jonesboro, Arkansas, 1998. This is the first event. Y'all heard of that? The school shooting up there? That was the first event considered by law enforcement as an active shooter event. There were 15 people shot total. Remember, these were kids that pulled this off. Okay? Columbine, 1999, 34 people shot. VA Tech, 49 people shot in 9 minutes. Aurora, Colorado, the movie theater, 70 people shot in 7 minutes. Okay. I bring these stats up to show y'all how quickly and how much damage an active shooter can do. These events seem to be picking up every year, and it has changed our training tactics as law enforcement. That side on our side is a lot different than y'all. Department of Homeland Security, we teach what is called run, hide, fight, and that's what the video is going to be about, and that's what y'all's standard procedure for an active shooter here at the school will be. Okay? The definition of an active shooter is basically somebody actively killing people. Okay? 70 people in 7 minutes, that's a lot of people. That's an average untrained shooter. Okay? If he was trained, it'd probably be a lot more than that. There's 5 stages to an active shooter. Fantasy stage, thinking about it, figuring it out. The planning stage, where he's actually doing intelligence gathering, figuring out where would be the best ways to come in, things like that. Preparation stage, he's getting his guns, his ammo, all that stuff ready to go. His approach, he's starting to come up and he's starting to test out the security systems, things like that. So, then the implementation, that's the bad day. They decide to come in and start shooting. Okay. The average incident lasts 12 minutes long. 37% of those incidents last less than 5 minutes. 60% of the time, the crime is over before security or law enforcement even respond. 57% of the time, the crime is still in progress. Those are the ones that are typically trying to do suicide by cop. The average law enforcement response time is 6 to 9 minutes. So 70 people shot in 7 minutes, with our response time being 6 to 9 minutes. Just imagine how much carnage could actually happen. Okay. The average hit rate of an active shooter is 50%. Those are untrained people. Okay. 50% of the time they're going to hit what they're shooting. And he can shoot, the average shooter can shoot 4 rounds per second. So that's 4 people per second that can be shot. 92% of the incidents happen in gun-free zones. Most schools are gun-free zones. Okay. So I tell you all this to just give you some quick statistics to get it in your mind that this is a big threat that we're looking at, that we constantly research. Part of my job is to research these active shooter events throughout the country, the responses from the law enforcement. We train most of our guys how to deal with them. But the run, hide, fight thing that y'all are going to do is for y'all own. It's not how we would respond or anything like that. It's how you guys should react to the situation. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let Ms. Jamie put the video in. 98% of the guys act alone. Okay. 97% of them are males. 80% use long guns and have multiple weapons. And with that 80%, all of them are starting to wear body armor. So that has changed our tactics. That has changed our tactics in training. Used to, we'd shoot at a certain area or anything like that. Now we never change that as law enforcement. So we're going to go ahead and start the video, and then we'll do question and answers after that, okay?
Shots fired on campus. The last thing you'd expect to hear. The odds of being involved in a situation like this are similar to your chances of being struck by lightning. It's a strange thing about lightning, though. We use it as a way to describe something that seemingly has no chance of happening. But how many of us would stand next to a metal pole during a thunderstorm? I'm Randy Spivey.
And I'm Jim Sporliger, both from the Center for Personal Protection and Safety. The possibility of being involved in an active shooter incident on campus may be remote, but the consequences can be catastrophic. That's why it makes good sense for you to spend some time thinking about what you would do if you found yourself in such a situation.
It's a sad fact that shooting incidents do happen on college campuses. Because of that, there has been a dramatic increase in preventive measures such as campus-wide violence prevention programs, efforts to identify troubled students, the development of threat management teams, and a major effort has gone into creating and upgrading notification systems and refining response strategies to get law enforcement on the scene faster.
But even the best preventive systems can never be perfect. And let's be candid, if lightning does strike, if an active shooter enters your area on campus, it will be unlike any situation you have ever experienced. And in those initial heart-stopping moments, it will only involve you, other students and faculty, and the shooter. The bottom line is you'll need to take direct responsibility for your personal safety and security. You must develop a survival mindset.
The purpose of this training is to help you do exactly that. With the proper mindset and the necessary tools, you'll be better equipped to react with purpose and maximize your chance of survival if you find yourself in a situation like this.
Survivors make a commitment. They take a personal stake in their own safety and security. They do whatever it takes, emotionally, mentally, to survive a critical incident. They ask themselves the what-if question. How would I get out? How would I survive? What would I do? Where would I go?
We know that these incidents are over in a matter of minutes. Most often, they're over before law enforcement is able to respond.
Your survival mindset is like a protective shield comprised of awareness, preparation, and rehearsal. Awareness involves taking the time necessary to gain a basic understanding of an active shooter situation. Preparation is asking yourself the what-if questions that will enable you to develop effective response strategies. The last component, rehearsal, is practicing your plan.
Shots fired. Do you know what that sounds like? Unless you see the shooter, you may not recognize the sounds for what they are. Gunshots. For most of us, our experience with gunshots is drawn from movies and television that use special sound effects. That means real gunshots can sound artificial. You can lose precious seconds as you slowly realize that these are, in fact, life-threatening sounds.
What was that?
That was a gunshot.
In a situation like this, most people, when they hear these types of sounds, having maybe never heard gunshots at all in real life, have really no idea what to expect. And it's not unusual for them to think that they're anything but gunshots.
I would treat any sound that you may perceive as a gunshot as that and act accordingly. Don't second guess it, because when you second guess it, those seconds count.
Those are gunshots.
So what should you do in those precious first seconds? You'll need to figure out what's going on and make immediate decisions. How are you going to survive the situation? Will you get out? Is there a path of escape? Will you hide out? Is there a chance to get where the shooter might not find you? Or will you find yourself in a situation where the only option is to try to take out the shooter in whatever way you can?
These are serious decisions. That's why the survival mindset is so important to develop. Research shows that there's a real difference between reactions of people who've been trained to face stressful, life-threatening situations and those who have not. The first response is the same in both groups, startling, fear. But the reactions between the two begin to differ immediately after that. People who've gone through training, people like you, feel anxious, where the untrained and unprepared begin to feel panic. Trained people begin to recall what they've learned. The untrained fall into disbelief.
Are those gunshots?
At this point, the divide between the two starts to get wider.
I can't believe this is happening.
While the untrained are lost in denial, this can't be happening to me. The trained are preparing to act just as they've rehearsed. Finally, as the untrained descend into helplessness,
We gotta get out of here.
the trained commit to action based on a survival mindset.
Those are too close.
So that mindset is preparing yourself for the eventuality that it might happen, and then if it does happen, just tell yourself, I will survive.
A survival mindset enables you to act quickly and effectively. Let's go back to the foundation, awareness. When you get on a plane and the crew asks you to know the nearest exit, they're not trying to create fear. They're certainly not trying to make you afraid to fly. They're just trying to make you aware, providing information so you can develop the survival mindset for that situation. They know that if there is an emergency, getting you in a predetermined mindset will help you take rapid, effective actions in a stressful situation. They want you to be mindful, not fearful. If you're mindful, you'll be better able to make that first critical decision. Take a tip from the airlines. Like noting the emergency exits, it may only take a minute or two to look around your environment and make some mental notes about how you'd handle an active shooter situation.
When you walk into your classroom, take a look at the exits. Take a look at what is available if I had to hide behind it, if I had to use it as a buffer between an assailant and myself.
Well, it's important for students as they walk around their campus to ask the what-if questions. What would they do if somebody came in with a gun and actively started shooting?
Think of all the contingencies. What are you going to do? Where are your escape routes? Where's the best access to call 911? Thinking about a situation before it actually develops is the best way to be prepared.
Looking at your environment through the lens of survival will help you to take decisive action more quickly. Of course, it's also important to be aware of the people on your campus as well. The fact is, there's no profile of an active shooter. And while we don't want you to walk around campus paranoid that everybody you meet could be a violent offender, we do want you to pay attention to the things that seem out of the ordinary. Accepting that a situation like this could happen is the first step toward decisive action.
So first, figure out the situation. What's going on? Where's it happening and who's doing it? Build your awareness using all your senses. Do it quickly and stay calm. Trust your intuition, your gut feeling. It's a built-in survival mechanism. Some people say it's knowing without knowing why, and it's an invaluable tool. For example, if you hear something that sounds like it might be a gunshot, assume that it is until you know otherwise. Once you figure out what's going on, you'll be better prepared to take action.
If you determine that you can get out to a safer area, then get out and get out fast. Don't wait for others to validate your decision and leave your belongings behind. The best way to survive an active shooter situation is not to be where he is and not to go where he can see you.
I'm on campus. I'm in Monroe Hall, and there's a guy here shooting people, and he's in a yellow hat.
When you get out, immediately call out to let authorities know what's going on. Do not assume someone else is calling.
If you have a cell phone, call 911 or use any campus emergency phone and be ready to give them useful information and be persistent, as the phone lines may be jammed with other calls. Remember, no matter how good your school's mass emergency notification system is, they can't alert others until someone provides that first critical information. Calmly and quickly, tell them where you are and what's happening.
In some cases, you may not be able to get out. The shooter may be between you and the only exit, or perhaps you would have to enter the area or the hallway the shooter is using. It might be safer for you to remain in place because you're well hidden and well protected. In any case, if you can't get out, then you must find a place to hide out. Find a place that will keep you hidden from the shooter's view and will provide some measure of protection should the shooter fire in your direction. If possible, avoid places that might trap you or restrict your options of movement. Once you've found your spot to hide out, you'll want to keep out the shooter. Hiding in a room that can be locked and that has plenty of things to hide behind is best. Blockade the door with heavy furniture, even if the door can be locked. If the shooter is nearby, though, just lock the door and get totally silent. Turn off any radios or other noise-producing objects in the room that might alert the shooter to your presence. And don't forget to silence that cell phone or pager if you have one. As soon as you have an opportunity, and without attracting the shooter's attention, call out to 911.
If there are two or more of you in the same place, do not huddle together for mutual protection or moral support. Spread out.
Those are too close. Spread out.
It's It's much easier for someone to shoot a group of people who are huddled in one place than if they are scattered around the room. Even if you're in a small room, spreading out will give you options and make it harder for the shooter if he does get into your hiding place. When spreading out in a room, quietly talk about what you'll do if the shooter enters. Whichever action you're taking, whether it's get out or hide out and keep out, you should help out where you can. Help others escape as you go. Help prevent others from entering the danger area. If someone near you has a life-threatening injury, if possible, provide first aid and keep them alive. Let others around you know what's happening and try to maintain calm and help them focus on survival. Keep in mind, as events unfold, you must continue to figure out what's happening so you can adjust your actions accordingly.
What if an incident begins while you're on your way to class or walking across campus? If someone starts shooting, stay in motion and find protection. It could be a tree, it could be a wall. Anything that will give you some protection while you figure out the situation and see if you need to do more.
Classrooms and lecture halls like this are unique to college campuses, and they've also been the location of prior critical incidents. What could you do if a shooter enters a place like this? There might be some opportunities to get out, either through other doors or perhaps a window. But realistically, people in the center of the classroom may not have the opportunity to get out. In that case, your only options might be to spread out, take cover, or take out the shooter. Unfortunately, you may find yourself in the same room as the shooter, maybe even face to face. You have to assume that his intentions are lethal to you, that his presence is a very real threat to your life. If a shooter has decided to shoot everyone he comes across, he'll probably succeed unless you stop him.
If you can't hide out and you have absolutely no other option, you may have to confront your assailant.
Convince yourself that you have what it takes to survive when your life is on the line. This is a life and death decision only you can make. It's so important to understand that in this kind of situation, anything you do or anything you don't do may involve life-threatening risk. If you determine there's no other option than to take out the shooter, then you must be prepared to do whatever is necessary to neutralize the threat.
Before the police get there, it's you against that bad guy, and you need to do everything you can to try to stop him, because you can't just sit and let him harm you or take your life or take your friend's life.
To do this, you'll need to become more aggressive than you ever thought possible. This means you either disrupt his actions or incapacitate him. Throwing things, yelling, using improvised weapons can all be effective in this situation, but total commitment and absolute resolve are critical.
I'm going to throw this backpack, I'm going to throw this book at him. And then what are you going to do? Well, then we're going to gang up on him. How many are you in here? 140. How many of him? 1.
If there are 2 or more of you, spread out, make a plan, and act as a team to overcome the shooter. Once again, you and the group will have to make a total commitment to your action and do absolutely whatever it takes without hesitation. To understand this better, think of the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Up until that day, the conventional wisdom about plane hijackings was that you should be calm, non-threatening, and wait for the plane to arrive at the hijacker's destination. Obviously, that guidance didn't apply to the hijackings that day. In fact, the passengers of United Flight 93 realized this and used a process like we're describing in this program to figure out what was happening. Once they figured out that the purpose of the hijacking was to kill as many people as possible, the passengers took decisive action to neutralize the threat and prevent further loss of life.
During my law enforcement career, I had the opportunity to talk to many people who survived critical incidents. And the commonality they shared was a single-mindedness of purpose to survive. No matter if they were physically injured, they were not going to stop. They were not just going to throw their hands up and quit. They were going to see it through.
You have to tell your mind that, you know what, I will survive, I will never give up, I will live.
There's another possible resolution to an active shooter situation, and that's when law enforcement arrives and takes action to end the shooting. When officers arrive, be prepared to calmly, quickly, and accurately tell them what they need to know. Location of the shooter, number of the shooters if there's more than one, description of the shooter, and number and kind of weapons they have.
Police, where's the shooter?
I don't know.
What's he wearing?
He's got like a black shirt and a yellow ball cap on.
Do not expect officers to assist you as you get out.
Okay, stay here.
Their first job is to stop the shooter and end the bloodshed.
Law enforcement is trained to go to the sounds of the gunshots and eliminate the threat.
If you're in a room and an emergency response team comes in, you must not present a threat to them. Do not point at them or the shooter. Do not scream or yell. Be quiet and compliant. Do exactly as they say. Remember, they have no way of knowing immediately whether you're one of the bad guys or not.
Police department, show your hands!
The officers have been taught that hands kill, and they're trained to first look at people's hands. So raise your arms, spread your fingers, and show them your hands as you drop to the floor.
The first thing we need to do is make sure that you're not a threat yourself, so we need to see your hands.
They'll know immediately that you're not armed or aggressive. That will help them focus on anyone who is armed and prevent them from mistaking you for the bad guy in a very dangerous situation. Remember, they have to begin by assuming everyone is a threat.
Don't come running up to us. Don't do anything that we could perceive as threatening. Have your hands in plain view. Be as calm as possible. And then be prepared that we probably won't spend a whole lot of time talking to you because we have to go address the issue.
It's important for you to realize there are differences between an active shooter and a hostage-taking situation. The hostage taker wants to use people as leverage to achieve a goal. This is very different than an active shooter who is there to take lives. If you find yourself in a hostage situation, remain calm, follow directions, and wait for the authorities to resolve the situation.
In a hostage situation, you want to exercise patience, you want to be compliant, and you want to give the authorities a chance to reach a negotiated resolution.
Historically, the vast majority of hostage situations are resolved through negotiations and end peacefully. But if the situation changes and someone is actually walking around with a gun shooting people, you're in an active shooter situation. The focus of this program has been on surviving an active shooter situation. One of the most effective ways of dealing with this difficult problem is through effective prevention programs. Interestingly, the same survival mindset we've been talking about today can sometimes prevent a situation from becoming violent in the first place. There may be warning signs or behaviors of concern that something is wrong.
We do see pre-incident indicators. We do see some behaviors that might suggest the possibility of eventual violence. And many of these offenders oftentimes exhibit angry or argumentative behavior. They often blame others for their problems. They fail to take responsibility for their own actions. They're what we would call injustice collectors. They perceive every slight as a major issue that they have to take action upon.
If you're suspicious about something or you really have an uncomfortable feeling, far better to report those types of observations and feelings than to just disregard them and hope that they're going to go away. You have many options when it comes to passing this information on to someone who can act on it. You have your campus law enforcement agencies, you have your RAs, you have your professors, you have your counseling centers. Take advantage of one of those options. If you wish to maintain your anonymity, there's ways to do that and still get the information to someone who can take some action on it and potentially prevent a tragedy.
It's okay to say something. There have been numerous shootings across the country have been prevented by students going, there's something wrong here.
We cannot do this by ourselves. This is a community, and in order to keep it safe, we need everybody's help, their eyes and their ears.
Hopefully, your college or university already has a violence prevention program in place that provides specific guidance on how to maintain a campus free from threats and violence. Remember, it's everyone's responsibility to keep the campus safe.
Shots fired on campus, a sound you hope to never hear. But if lightning does strike, you'll always have a weapon, a survival mindset. You can survive.
Anybody got any questions on that video? Y'all just remember run, hide, fight, okay? When we say run, we mean run. Don't stop and get your purses, your backpacks, whatever. Just get out. When we say hide, hide to the best of your ability. There's nothing we can teach you or do for you that will guarantee that you can survive these things. The majority of your safety in an incident like this is up to you, even after we respond. Okay? Fight. When it comes to the fight, you have got to make a total commitment to fight for your life. I can't make that decision for you. If you're going to decide to fight and you're going to hit the guy in the face, don't hit him in the face, hit him in the back of the head, if that makes sense. Try to punch through his face. Use your backpacks, use your cups, use your pants, whatever. Somebody go for the gun. It's going to fire. People are going to get shot. But you can help to limit the casualties that we have to deal with. Okay. So if y'all have any other questions or none at all, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Jamie for just a minute.
All right. Some of the safety tips that we want to let you guys know about the campus are listed on the screen before you. So just make sure your doors are locked, your windows are rolled up, there's no valuables in plain sight. I will remind you, books are valuable. I know you probably know that as you've just spent quite a large amount of money on books probably. So please don't leave them laying around either in the LRC or